decades.
Welcome to the deep dive.
The U.S. government line
Today,
was basically
we're
putting on our parkas,
supernatural stuff,
metaphorically,
psychic powers,
and heading
telepathy,
deep into
seeing
Siberia,
things
far
into the
away with your
cold.
mind.
Exactly.
Pure fantasy.
We're
That's what they
exploring a
told
story that's
everyone.
been kicking around for decades, kind of in the shadows of history. But the legend,
while that was the
official
Tisul
story,
Princess, behind closed
a
doors,
discovery,
something supposedly so
much stranger,
profound,
so
going on.
ancient, deep inside
if any
the
part of it
intelligence
holds water.
community.
It's
It
a really
basically
interesting
throws our
contrast,
whole
isn't it?
understanding of
Publicly,
human
it's all
history out
scientific
the window.
dismissal.
It's
Privately,
the ultimate
the
pull case,
Pentagon,
isn't
the
it?
CIA.
And what makes it stick around, I think,
They're
is
clearly
how it
wrestling
taps
with
into all
something
these
very
powerful
different.
conspiracy
These
themes.
fantasies suddenly
You've got
become
lost
a
civilization,
serious
seemingly
strategic
impossible
issue.
science.
Exactly.
Like preservation.
And that
Exactly,
worry,
the preservation
that
over
sort of creeping fear
unimaginable
about
time
psychic
spans.
warfare,
And
it
then
leads to one of the
classic
honestly
element,
most
a cover-up
bizarre
by
and
a
top
major
secret projects of
superpower,
the whole Cold War.
the Soviet
Project
Union,
Sunstreak.
in this case.
So our
Let me just
mission
picture
today isn't really
an actual
about
government
proving if
project
the
trying to
princess was
weaponize the
real or
human
not. It's
mind.
more about
Funded off the
unpacking
books.
the story itself.
And
Tracing
officially,
the
the cover
narrative,
story,
Yeah,
or maybe the
understanding
initial
how
idea,
this
was
legend is
remote
built.
viewing.
What are the
Right.
specific
This
claims, the really
supposed
mind-bending parts
ability
that make it so
for trained
sticky?
people to just
And maybe why the Soviets
perceive
might have felt
distant
the
places,
need to make
secret
it all
enemy
just
bases, maybe even peek
disappear.
into the future.
It's that clash,
all
isn't
just
it?
using their
Established
minds.
science hitting
And
something
we should be
utterly
clear,
baffling,
this wasn't some,
buried
like,
20 meters
side
down.
hobby.
It
The
wasn't
first
just a
details
few
really
folks
set a
messing
scene,
around.
almost like
This was a
folklore.
strategic move.
We're talking
a
the
direct
Kemerovo
response
region
to what
in
they thought the
Siberia.
Soviets
Coal
were doing.
country.
They were
Permafrost.
urgently trying to get
Not
an
exactly
edge
where
in a
you'd expect
completely new
delicate
kind of
archaeology,
battlefield.
rugged
And that's what we're doing today.
industrial
We're going to peel back
Okay,
those
let's
layers
picture
of
precisely.
secrecy, really
In September
deep dive
1969,
into Project
tiny mining
Sunstreak
settlement.
and the kind
There's
of
a chick,
wild
Tisul
conspiracy
Princess,
theories that are still
way
swirling
out
around
there.
it.
Yeah, because
Coal
the
miners
story
are
goes
drilling
way
deep,
beyond
like
just
really
psychic
deep.
spying.
Oh,
Working
absolutely.
through bedrock.
It might have cracked
coal
open the
seams.
door
The
to,
story
well,
says they're over
alien
20 meters
contact,
down.
maybe
Which is pretty
even
far,
some sources
right?
suggest. And suddenly, the
interdimensional
drill
conflict.
bit
It
hits
gets pretty
something,
out there.
stops cutting
It really
coal.
does.
It
So we're
strikes
going to look at
something
where it
massive,
came from, the really
hard,
unsettling
and
things that
definitely
viewers
not
reported
natural rock.
seeing.
An artifact,
The,
but not like
weird
anything they'd
overlaps
ever
with old
seen or
occult
expected
stuff,
down there. They'd hit
And
a
these incredible
sarcophagus.
And the first surprise wasn't just that it was there, but what it was
the
made
unknown.
of.
Yet
So
the
yeah,
descriptions are
settling.
weird. A
This is where things
coffin,
get
maybe
weird.
2 meters
So
long,
where did Sunstreak
but
even
not
come from?
stone, not
It really
wood,
kicks
not
off
metal.
back in the early
It was
70s.
this
There was
white,
this sort of
crystalline
quiet
material.
panic
like
brewing
polished marble.
in the
Or
intelligence
quartz.
world
Something
during
like
the
that,
Cold
yeah.
War.
Right. Word got out that the
maybe
Soviets were
translucent,
pouring
just
serious
awe.
money and
And
effort
getting
into
it out
parapsychology.
was apparently
not
a
just
huge
dabbling.
effort.
We're
They couldn't
talking
just break it open
state-sponsored
down there.
experiments,
had to haul the whole thing
telepathy,
up to the surface.
moving
And
objects
even
with the
then,
mind,
cracking the seal
psychokinesis,
wasn't easy.
and
It was
crucially,
supposedly perfectly
remote
fitted.
viewing. Sealed
Yeah,
with
and
some
when
kind
U.S.
of
intelligence
putty
picked up
or
on this,
cement, even
alarms
after
went
all
off.
that time
Big
buried.
time.
Which is
The Pentagon
another strange
especially.
You can imagine
So they
the
finally
fear,
managed
right? What if
to
this
pry
stuff
the
is
lid
real?
open,
Even if it only
and
gives
this
a
is where
small
it goes
advantage.
from
Exactly.
like
the
weird
U.S. could be
archaeology to
completely
something else entirely.
blindsided in a
Right,
conflict
because it
that
wasn't
doesn't
empty. It was
use
filled
bombs or
almost to the
spies
top
in
with
the
a liquid.
traditional sense.
What kind of liquid?
So this perceived
Clear,
threat,
apparently,
this
but with
potential
this
psychic
strange
gap, it leads
pinkish
directly
blue
to the
tint.
CIA's starting
And
Project
it
Stargate.
completely
Which was
covered
kind of the
whatever
umbrella
or
program. And
whoever
under
was
Stargate, you
inside.
get
And
these
inside was
sub-projects.
a woman.
Project
woman.
Sunstreak
The
was one of
accounts
them,
say she lived
run by the
young,
Defense Intelligence Agency,
maybe
the
late 20s,
DIA,
early
mostly through the
30s.
1980s.
With delicate
Okay,
features,
so
maybe
Sunstreak
slightly
gets going.
almond-shaped eyes.
And on
Descriptions vary,
paper,
but consistently,
its job
she looked nothing
sounds,
like the local Siberian
well, almost
population.
straightforward for that world.
She wasn't
Recruit
a skeleton.
people, train them
Not a
as
mummy.
remote
No,
viewers,
that's the core of
get
it.
them to
She looked like
project
she
their
was just
consciousness, basically,
asleep.
and spy
Preserved.
on Soviet facilities,
Dressed,
gather
too.
intel.
Standard
In this
espionage,
beautiful white
just
gown,
with a very
apparently embroidered with
unconventional
silver and
method.
gold
But that's not
threads.
how it played out, was
Suggests
it? It
high
became
status,
clear
right?
pretty fast this wasn't
near
just
her
about
head,
finding missile
a few
silos.
small
No,
objects,
almost right away, the viewers
metallic
weren't just
ornaments,
describing,
strange
submarine
shapes,
pens or
and
radar
something described
installations.
vaguely
The data
as
started
a
getting
device.
A device.
Weird
Like
how.
technology.
Well, that was the big
Unknown.
turning point.
Something
really.
that didn't
The
resemble
viewers
anything
started
familiar
reporting
to the
things
miners,
that,
or
based on our normal
supposedly,
understanding
to
of
the
physics and reality,
investigators,
either
shouldn't exist.
they'd found
Things
the
that shouldn't
Tisul
exist.
Princess.
Okay,
Okay,
now
let's
we're getting
pause on that
somewhere.
more.
Preservation.
Yeah, the
That's
information
the
they
detail
were
that makes
bringing
this
back
story
was
go
pushing
global,
way
right?
past the
Because
boundaries
we know
of what
mummies,
anyone
we know bog
expected.
bodies,
It
we know Ritzy
fundamentally
the
challenged
Iceman.
what the
Right, we have
program was even
models for
supposed to be
preservation,
doing.
desiccation,
So tell me about
freezing,
these viewers.
canning.
They
But
weren't
this sounds
just
like
random
none of
people
them.
off the street.
Not at all.
right?
This wasn't Yeah. just
Many had
preventing
military
decay.
backgrounds.
The
That's right,
descriptions
often
are of
military
living
personnel.
sleep.
And again, they went through this
Pale,
really
but
specific,
flawless.
structured
Unblemished.
training.
After potentially millions of
controlled
years.
protocols. That's
was
the
the
claim.
term. Like coordinate
Witnesses
remote
supposedly
viewing
said
or
her
CRV.
cheeks still had a faint
okay.
glow.
So it wasn't just
Her hair,
like
long
closing
and dark,
your eyes and hoping
perfectly
for the
kept.
best.
No,
floating in the
very
liquid.
systematic.
Okay, that
They
sounds
might
silly.
be given
Eyelashes
just
intact.
intact.
Geographic
Even
coordinates
her
or maybe a
fingernails,
random
and
number
this
linked
detail
to
always
a
gets me
target.
described as
Then they'd go through
perfectly
these
stages,
manicured.
sort of drilling
Manicured
down,
fingernails.
describing sensory
That just screams
details, sketching
impossibility.
impressions,
It suggests something
trying to
beyond
build
just
a
stopping
picture
decay,
of a target
like
they
time
knew
itself
nothing about
stopped for.
The total
consciously.
stasis, yeah.
Often something hidden
Which brings
miles
us
away,
back
maybe
to
even
that
sealed in
fluid,
an
that
envelope,
pinkish
right there in the
blue
room.
liquid.
And
It must be the key. It
Naturally.
surrounded her
Well,
completely.
the early
It was
results
the key.
were apparently,
And here's the terrifying twist in the
intriguing,
story.
impressive
What
maybe,
supposedly
but small
happened
scale.
right after they opened
You know,
it.
sketches
Okay.
that looked
Within minutes of the
surprisingly like
lid
a
coming
Soviet
off,
factory,
the air
details
hits the
about a
fluid,
hidden bunker
and it
that
starts
later
to
matched
evaporate
spy photos
quickly.
Hang on.
enough to keep
If the
funding
preservation
flowing,
tech was so
definitely.
advanced,
so it had some
why would it
legs.
fail
Yeah.
the
But
second
then,
it's
like you
exposed
said,
to air?
things took a turn.
Seems like a flaw.
A sharp
Or
turn,
a crucial
because it's one
dependency.
thing to
That's
sketch
the
a
puzzle,
building you
isn't it?
shouldn't
The decay
know about.
wasn't
It's
slow.
something else
It was
entirely
immediate,
when your
visible.
trained military viewers start
They
reporting
watched it happen.
experiences that
The
just
story goes that
flat
as
out
the
defied
liquid
the
level
material
dropped,
world
her
as we know
skin
it.
started to darken,
What kind
to
of things?
wither.
Well,
right there in front
get
of
this.
us.
That's
Some
horrific.
viewers started
It implies
reporting
the fluid wasn't
energy
just
being.
passive
What energy
preservation.
beings?
It was
Yeah.
an active
Not
medium,
people, not
essential
animals,
for her
just
stability.
conscious energy
The
forms
container,
that
the
were
fluid, the
apparently
body,
watching
all
them
one
while they were
system.
doing the remote
So
viewing.
these are the
Miners,
viewers. Okay,
deep
that's
underground.
Others
open
claimed
this
they weren't
ancient
just moving
crystal-like
across
box,
space, but
find
across
this
time,
sleeping beauty,
getting
and
glimpses
then watch
of
her
ancient
start to
history
decay
or
as this
even
weird
future
liquid
events.
vanishes.
Must have
Time
been
travel.
absolutely terrifying.
And it leaves you asking,
There's
what was
one
this?
really
Some
famous
kind of
or
super
infamous
advanced
account.
biological stasis?
A viewer insisted
alchemy,
they saw the Egyptian
or something not from
pyramids
Earth
being
at all,
built,
And
but
this,
not by Egyptians.
this
By,
technological
quote,
marvel, this
tall,
impossible preservation,
luminous entities.
has to be linked to
Luminous
the age
entities
claim, right?
building
Which is
the
probably why the
pyramids.
story got
Yeah.
buried
That
so fast.
sounds
like
Exactly,
something from
because
a,
the reported
fringe
age is the
documentary.
real
Exactly, except
bombshell.
these were
the
reports
geological
coming from
layer,
within a
the coal
classified
seam where they
military
found the sarcophagus.
intelligence program.
According
That's
to the
what makes you
legend,
stop
it
and
dated
think.
back
Yeah,
250
Any other
million
examples?
years.
Oh yeah,
250
Another one just
million.
as strange.
Wait, that's
A
that's
viewer
not just
claimed
ancient,
they
that's
found hidden
impossible for humans.
spacecraft
completely
under the ice
impossible
in
by our
Antarctica.
current understanding. 250 million years
spacecraft.
ago, we're in the
Like
Permian period.
UFOs.
Before
It seems
dinosaurs.
to be the
Way
implication.
before dinosaurs
and
were
guarded
dominant,
before the
apparently,
first true
by
mammals.
some kind of
long
consciousness that
long
resisted
before
intrusion,
anything
like
even
a
remotely
psychic guard
resembling
dog,
a
but
human
not a
ancestor
dog.
was
Okay,
supposed
wow.
to exist.
So these
So
reports,
if she was
were they just
250
ignored,
million years
filed
old,
away as crazy.
Well, officially, a lot
She
of the
couldn't
stuff
be
was
human.
probably
Or
downplayed or
everything we
buried.
think we
Classified
know about
deep.
evolution
But
and life on
inside
Earth
the
is
project,
fundamentally wrong. The
And that's
whispers
why the
started.
Soviets
The idea
might have
took
reacted
hold
the
that
way they
maybe
did.
remote
This wasn't
viewing
just
wasn't just
archaeology.
about spying
For
on
them,
the
it was an
Soviets
ideological
anymore.
crisis.
Maybe, precisely.
Maybe it was
The
about
Soviet
making
state was
contact.
built
This is
on
where it gets
Marxist
even stranger,
historical
right?
materialism.
The connection, or the
A
apparent
clear,
connection to
linear evolutionary path.
Occult practices.
No room for
Yes,
a
that's
perfectly
another
preserved
layer to this whole thing that's just
250
fascinating.
million-year-old humans.
People
It would
within
undermine
the
their entire
program
worldview.
apparently
It was a
started
direct
noticing
threat.
these
So the reaction,
disturbing
as the story
parallels
goes, was
between
immediate
the
and
remote
absolute.
viewing
Authorities
techniques they were
alerted, and
developing
within
and
hours,
refining,
boom,
and
military
practices found
helicopters
in
descended
really
on this
old
tiny village.
occult
The whole site locked down.
traditions.
Occult
Cordoned off
traditions
completely,
locked
like
down.
no photos allowed, no press
methods
contact,
described in esoteric
the sarcophagus
orders.
itself,
Groups like the
confiscated
Hermetic
immediately.
Order
It
of the
sounds
Golden
less like
Dawn or
investigating
the
a find and more
Rosicrucians.
like, okay,
Yeah.
They were
continuing
looking at
outbreak.
rituals for
Truth
astral
outbreak.
projection,
National
achieving
security
trance
level
states,
response.
intense
The suppression
visualization
tactics
exercises,
reported are
the
textbook
whole
Soviet
idea of
methods.
separating
Like
your
what?
consciousness
miners,
from your
the
physical
first
body.
witnesses.
Wait, so the
Sworn
technique
to
Sunstreak was
absolute
teaching its
secrecy.
military viewers.
Threats
Seem
of severe
to
punishment.
directly
Well,
mirror
standard
these
procedure, man.
ancient
But
mystical
then,
practices.
reports
It's
of
quite striking when you put them
interrogations.
side by side.
Villagers
question
who saw
becomes,
something
Was the
questioned
Pentagon,
intensely.
was the DIA
And the really dark
inadvertently
part.
stumbling onto, or
Some
maybe
accounts claim key
rediscovering
witnesses,
some
maybe
kind of
even
ancient
some
technique,
initial scientists
something
involved.
mystics and secret
Just
societies had been using
vanished
for
in the years that
centuries.
followed.
That's the
Can't
implication,
verify
yeah.
it, but it's
Was this
part of the
military
legend.
intelligence
And the
program
sarcophagus
actually an
itself.
unwitting or
Shipped
maybe
out
witting
under guard.
occult
Where
experiment?
did it supposedly go? Pretty
Rumors
mind-bending
split.
thought.
Some
And it
say a
didn't stop
secret
there,
research
did it?
facility
The
nearby,
experiences
like in
got darker.
Novosibirsk.
They
Others
did.
say it went
Some
straight to
viewers
Moscow
started
to the
reporting
highest levels.
encounters
The point
with
is it
actively
disappeared.
hostile
Utterly.
presences.
By
Well,
the early
hostile.
1970s,
How?
any
They
mention of the
described,
Tisul Princess was
entering
scrubbed
a
from official
location
records,
mentally
wiped from state
projecting their
media,
consciousness
gone.
there
They didn't just
only to
debunk
be
it, they
confronted.
erased it.
Not
And
by
that
human
complete
guards,
aggressive
but
secrecy
by what they
that
described
becomes
as
the
fuel for all
shadowy
the theories
entities
about
of
things
who
that
or
seemed
what she
fully
was,
aware
if
of
they
their
buried
psychic
it that
intrusion
hard,
and
it
actively
must have
tried
been
to block
huge.
them or
Okay,
push
let's
them
talk
out.
Aware of
theories.
them.
As
Yeah.
the story
Like
leaked
psychic
out, whispered
guards.
around,
Essentially, yes.
What
Which
explanations
raises a
popped up?
really
Well, theory one
profound
is the
and,
lost
frankly,
civilization angle.
unsettling
She's a
possibility.
survivor,
is?
perfectly
Well, if the human
preserved
mind
from
can
some
actually travel
incredibly
inside the body.
ancient,
Maybe
hyper-advanced
maybe those
human society
non-physical
that
realms
rose
aren't
and
empty.
fell
Maybe other
millions
intelligences
of
already
years
live
ago.
there.
But maybe
Before
they
the
don't
flood, that
appreciate
kind of
that
thing.
there's-
Pre-Diluvian,
Exactly.
yeah.
Entities
For
that
coffin,
really
the
didn't
tech,
want
the
people like
preservation, it's all
Sunstreak
proof
viewers
of
poking
their
around.
lost
It makes you
science.
wonder,
Maybe left as a message.
was
Then
Sunstreak
there's
opening
theory
doors
two,
that
which
had been
tries to
deliberately
bridge the
shut
time gap
for a
a bit.
very long time?
The
For a
Atlantis
good reason.
connection.
Okay,
Right.
so if they
Maybe
were
she
opening
wasn't that
doors,
old, relatively speaking.
What
Maybe
exactly
she was
did they
royalty
find on the
or
other
a
side?
priestess from Atlantis
Because some of
or
the
a
most
similar
sensational
global
claims,
culture.
and that
are
would mean
about
their influence reached
well,
Siberia.
aliens.
Exactly.
Extraterrestrial.
It slightly
Absolutely.
grounds
They
this is where the
timeline,
story really
connecting
goes
it to
in high
existing,
gear. We
albeit
actually have
fringe, ancient
declassified
mysteries.
documents,
Theory 3
fragments,
jumps
hints
off
really
planet
that
entirely.
suggest
The
some remote
extraterrestrial
viewing sessions were
hypothesis.
specifically
Simple
targeting
argument.
Mars.
She doesn't look human.
Mars.
The tech is
Like
unknown. The
the
perturbation is
planet
impossible
Mars.
by
The
our
planet
standards.
Mars.
Therefore,
There's
alien.
one particularly
some
famous
ancient
session often
colonization or
cited
research
where a viewer
program.
gave this incredibly
Left
detailed
behind.
Could be.
description.
Maybe
They
put in
claimed
stasis
they
during
were
some planetary
observing
event.
Mars millions of years
Never
ago.
retrieved. Millions.
And the
And they
wildest
described
one,
seeing
maybe.
these tall
Theory 4.
beings sheltering inside
traveler.
massive
Or genetic
pyramidal
prototype.
structures.
Pyramids on
Yeah, this one
Mars.
flips
Pyramids
it.
on
She's
Mars
not
as
from
their
the past,
planet
she's
was
from our
dying
future.
around them.
Set
A
back.
civilization
Placed in
facing
stasis,
extinction.
Wow,
maybe to
okay.
survive some
That's quite a
future
claim.
cataclysm.
It
but
is,
put
and it
too
wasn't
far
just
back.
Mars.
Other
Other
sessions
sessions
allegedly targeted
a
well-known
glimpse of what
UFO
humanity
hotspots
might
and crash
become
sites on
or
Earth,
already has
including
become
Roswell.
elsewhere
Of course,
in
Roswell
time.
had to be
It's
in there.
fascinating how these
And viewers
stories
reportedly
then
described
weave
seeing
into
non-human
bigger
bodies,
conspiracy narratives,
alien
isn't it?
artifacts,
Once
all
the
hidden
story
away
leaves
deep
Russia.
inside
Oh yeah, it
classified
becomes a
government
connecting
facilities.
piece. People
So
link
not
it
just
to
seeing things
rumors
far
of similar
away,
finds,
but
like
seeing
in
things the
Antarctica.
government was
And the
actively
preservation fluid.
hiding.
That's
Does that
the
get
claim.
linked to
It
other
suggests the
myths?
viewers
Definitely.
weren't
You
just
hear
passive
connections to ancient
observers. They were
Egypt,
potentially
whispers of a liquid
uncovering
light
evidence
or
of
an
an
elixir
alien
used by their
presence that
highest
was being
priests or
actively
pharaohs.
The theological
concealed.
side
And
too.
then there's
a
Wright
human
Patterson
older
Air
than
Force
Adam and
Base,
Eve.
right?
That sparks
Always
rumors the
comes up in these
Vatican
stories.
was
Yes.
quietly
Wright
informed,
Patterson.
you know,
Another
to
chilling
manage the
account involved a
potential
viewer
fallout
who
for
claimed
religious
they
doctrine
psychically
worldwide.
entered
And
a
more
hidden
recently,
chamber deep underground
Post-Soviet
there.
era
What do they
theories.
see?
Yeah, claims that her genetic
Holding
material wasn't
biological
lost, that it was
specimens
harvested
that were
For what?
completely unlike
clandestine
anything
projects.
known on Earth. Using
Alien
her
bodies,
perfect
basically.
DNA for
That's
cloning
the
research,
strong
maybe
implication.
creating
And
super
another
soldiers
viewer,
or
possibly
trying to
targeting
replicate
the
that
same
stasis
location or a
technology.
similar one,
The
claimed
ancient
they
mystery
witnessed some kind
becomes
of
a
modern
psychic
weapon.
network.
Okay, but we
Something
absolutely
connecting human
have to bring
minds
this
to,
back down to earth.
well,
What does
something
mainstream
else,
science
something
say?
beyond our world, out
Geologists,
among the stars.
specific- A psychic
Well, they're pretty
network
clear. The
connecting us
Coles
to aliens.
seams in
That was the
Camarova,
report.
they are
So you look at all
ancient.
these accounts together.
Permian
Mars,
period,
Roswell,
250
Wright
million years
Patterson,
old.
psychic
That
networks.
part's
It paints
verified
a very different
geology.
picture
But
than
a
just
human
spying
body
on the
inside.
zodiac.
Scientifically
Completely
speaking,
different. If you
Yeah.
take these
impossible.
reports at
Full
face value,
stop.
even just
Anatomically
partially,
modern humans
the implication
just
is
didn't exist
huge.
then, not even close.
Project
So the
Sunstreak
scientific explanation
might have
is
started
Hoax,
as espionage,
or more
but it
likely
seems to
a
have
massively
pivoted.
exaggerated
It became
local
about
legend.
preparing
Maybe miners
for
found
contact
something
with
unusual,
non-human
a strange
intelligence.
rock formation,
Or
maybe
maybe
even
more
petrified
cynically,
wood that looked
about making
vaguely
sure that
like a
contact
coffin.
And the
remained
story
a
grew from
secret.
there.
Yeah,
Kept fueled
far
by
away from the
imagination,
public
maybe
eye.
some local folklore,
But the theories
worker
don't even
embellishment,
stop at
and then
just
amplified
ETs from
later
other
by the
planets,
Cold
do
War
they?
climate.
Some people take
Any
it even
weird
further.
story
That's
out
right.
of the secret
There's a
of
whole
USSR
other
could
branch of
gain
theory
traction.
suggesting
And a crucial
Sunstreak
lack of
wasn't
proof.
just encountering
That's the core
extraterrestrials,
argument
but
for skeptics.
potentially
There is
interdimensional
zero
beings.
verifiable
Interdimensional, like
evidence.
from parallel.
No
Okay, so
photos
for
that can be
decades,
authenticated.
right?
No
The U.S. government
samples
line
of
was
the liquid.
basically
No piece of the sarcophagus.
supernatural stuff,
Nothing
psychic
but
powers,
anecdotes
telepathy,
passed down through decades.
seeing things
So
far
it's a
away with your
classic
mind,
Russian
pure
urban legend
fantasy.
for the
That's what they
skeptics.
told
Right.
everyone.
Yeah, that's
Which
the public
leaves
face.
you, the
Complete
listener,
skepticism.
right in the middle
But,
of that tension.
You know, while that
It's
was the
what
official
makes
story,
the legend
behind
endure.
closed doors,
Explain that
something.
to me again.
Skeptics
Something much
dismiss it because
stranger
there's
was
no
apparently
proof.
going on.
Believers argue
Deep
the total
inside
lack
the
of proof.
intelligence
The alleged
community.
cover up the
It's
vanished
a really
evidence.
interesting contrast,
that
isn't it?
itself is
Publicly, it's all
proof of
scientific
a
dismissal.
massive suppression.
Privately,
Because
the Pentagon,
truth
the
was
CIA,
too dangerous to handle.
Exactly.
they're clearly
Too
wrestling with something
disruptive
very
to history,
different.
to
These
science, to
fantasies
religion,
suddenly
to power
become
structures.
So the
a
Teal
serious
Princess
strategic
becomes this
issue.
powerful
Exactly.
symbol, doesn't she?
And that
More
worry,
than
that
just a
sort of
potential
creeping
body.
fear
She's
about
the
psychic
ultimate
warfare,
suppressed
it leads to
secret.
one of
The
the
inconvenient
honestly
truth
most
literally
bizarre
buried.
and top secret
She's Sleeping
projects of the
Beauty,
whole
guarding
Cold War,
knowledge that
Project
could rewrite
Sunstreak.
everything we
I mean,
think
just
we
picture
know.
it.
And she
An
still lives
actual
on
government
in a way,
project
online
trying to
forums,
weaponize the
Siberian
human
local
mind.
folklore,
Funded off the books.
some people there
Totally
still
secret.
claim
And
relatives
officially,
remember
the cover
something
story,
happening
or
back
maybe the
in
initial
69.
idea, was
The story
remote
persists.
viewing.
Whether
Right.
the actual
This-
discovery happened or not, the
Okay,
legend
so
is
for
real.
decades,
So,
right,
the
U.S.
absolute
government
truth.
line was
Probably lost.
basically
swallowed by Soviet archives,
supernatural
maybe,
stuff,
or just
psychic
dissolved into
powers,
myth.
telepathy,
Very likely unknowable.
seeing things far
but the
away
legend
with your
itself,
mind.
just
Pure
by
fantasy.
existing,
That's what they
forces
told
a
everyone.
really
Yeah, that was the
uncomfortable
public
question
face.
on you, doesn't
Complete
it?
Go on.
skepticism.
Let's just imagine
But,
for a second
while
that
that
such
was
a
the
discovery
official
was
story,
made. A
behind
technology
closed doors,
capable of
something-
preserving life for geological
much
ages.
stranger was
Would
apparently
any
going on.
powerful
Deep
institution,
inside the
scientific,
intelligence
governmental,
community.
religious,
It's a really
truly
interesting
allow that
contrast,
knowledge
isn't
out?
it? Publicly,
Could
it's
it
all
be that our
scientific
history is
dismissal.
much older,
Privately,
much stranger
the
than we're
Pentagon, the
told,
CIA,
and maybe, just
they're
maybe,
clearly
the
wrestling
timeline
with
we
something
accept
very
is,
different.
well,
These
a
fantasies
carefully
suddenly
managed
become,
narrative,
a
a story
serious
designed to
strategic
keep us
issue.
from asking too many
Exactly.
questions about
And
where
that
we really
worry,
came from.
that sort of